is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines, but most importantly, to provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, you guys, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do, or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve. So you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Just your little subtle weekly reminder. If you want to get in on the best newsletter in the transportation industry, you guys, mine dropped this morning. But unlike others, I don't just add people to that distribution list. So if you want to register for that email, go to thefreightcoach.com. It will auto prompt you to register for it. Put your information in there. It's once a week. We don't sell your information, mainly because I don't even know how to do that or how that happens. But we're just out here adding value into the industry, you guys. We talk about industry specific stuff, fuel prices, rates, all of that stuff. So go to thefreightcoach.com and check it out. And speaking of some really cool stuff, we're going to be talking about a topic today that I'm surprised that this wasn't adopted a long time ago, but I am really glad that this guy is on it right now. And that's, the digital BOL. Like, we're digital literally in every part of our life right now. Yet for some reason, this document is kind of lagging behind that as an adoption industry-wide, but these guys are going to change that. So I have Mr. Josh Kolar on the show today. Josh, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me, Chris. It's exciting, and definitely pumped to share more about what we've got going on at Driver Doc and how we're changing the game as it relates to the bill of lading.
Dude, absolutely, man. So Josh, tell me, how did you get your start in freight? What brought you into transportation?
Yeah. In a roundabout way, I'm actually classically trained accountant and an IT auditor. And so had the, happenstance thing come up where I actually needed to forfeit an audit with one of the largest auditing firms, KPMG, due to some family ties and things like that with one of my large clients. And so ended up jumping ship and getting back into a passion I had throughout college, was at UPS, and got opportunities to see freight or the parcel shipping side, but took an opportunity after KPMG with Union Pacific and in their logistics side of the house.
Dude, I like it. So what's it like working on the rail like that? Like, I've never done it, and I've had my friend Ann Ranke on the show before, and and it's an interesting segment of the industry. It's literally, in my opinion, outside of horse and buggy, it is the oldest transportation method that is still being used today inside of this country.
And I think we're I think it was like my next stepping stone, right, to getting into logistics after jumping out of auditing. But the industry, while fast, it's like the trains have gotten faster, those types of things, paperwork and how things were being exchanged, very much, lagging, like you said, very old, archaic type of space. And so, even in the world of, systems getting better and, technology improving, especially with the likes of like the pandemic and those things and everything going forced digital, that was a stop where I got to see things where, yes, just this paper shipping experience was one of the biggest culprits in financial delays and operational delays. And so, it's an interesting thing of that, but also, just that's where I started, but that's not where I ended my corporate career. I had an opportunity in the mid 2000s, then 2016 timeframe, to get over to Warner Enterprises and help grow their logistics and intermodal capabilities. And what I started to discover really quickly was the same issue was prevalent with the paper bill of lading. And so building technology to make that faster inside a company worked really, really well, but it wasn't what was going to digitize the industry. And I think that was the most eye-opening thing for me, to go from one of the largest rail companies like Union Pacific and one of the largest transportation companies like Warner Enterprises, and seeing that both areas struggled with that paper document, and knowing then the more I touched shippers, the more that I touched some of the other parts of the space, that it wasn't going away. It was very prevalently an issue.
No, and that's exactly it, right? Like I look at it as I mean, I remember when I first started, Josh, it was like, the amount of times where people call in and they're like, hey, I need to verify this, this bill of lading's wrong. There's so much that is on that's relying on the accuracy of that bill of lading and, being sent in. It's like, keeping it easier for the drivers to stay organized, because again, it's easy for me to sit here and be like, come on, man, send that over when I'm in a controlled environment inside of my office. And, I'm not out there on the road, and then keeping a lot of that stuff organized, and I feel like back office automation and stuff like that for, whether it's the driver or the broker, anything to keep that as accurate as possible, because like, I'm convinced that there are not that many shippers, manufacturers out there that don't want to pay you, but they have a process that they need to follow to make sure that their controller is issuing right payment and they're billing their suppliers and everything else. It's not just you in that equation. So it's like, for me, how do we get that more accurate? But most importantly, how do we get this done faster for everybody?
Yeah, no. And I think, so I think that's the interesting thing, is everybody kind of has their own take on it, right? Shippers, transportation companies, brokers, they're all have, they're all tied to this paper documentation, but they all have their intricate problems with it. And I think the more that, like, we've been out here now working specifically to solve the digital, the paper BOL issue for the past 5 years. And I think what, gave us some eye-opening at bats and experience through this process of trying to think about the best way to solve the problem was starting with driver scanning. And I think, as you talked about, that administration, expectation, and definitely with, drivers wanting to be driving and not having to be, document scanners and those types of things, that gave us an understanding that while the BOL, you could take an image of it and get it going faster for the trucking company, that really wasn't a value add to like shippers. Shippers weren't like, hey, I want to pay you faster. And so part of like what we're starting to better understand now is, if we want a community-based exchange, right, where both parties, like shippers and transportation companies and brokers, want to exchange this data, is knowing that the shipper wants to stop printing out daily pickup packets.
Yeah.
And thinking about then if we can give them value, just as much as trucking companies don't want their drivers managing documents or losing documents or having to scan documents in the cab anymore, is creating a value proposition that benefits both parties in a way where, okay, we no longer have to physically exchange paper. And I think that piece, one, is only even allowable to kind of solve today because most companies are through their digitalization efforts are, converting up, are getting better technology stacks, are going from on-prem, AS400 mainframe type capabilities only to now fully cloud-based TMS and API connectivity. Yeah. And that's something where, if you would have said, solve this problem, honestly, 5 years ago when I left Warner Enterprises in 2019, I would tell you it's impossible. Yeah. But with companies now embracing the digitalization and bringing their data online and bringing it into a cloud state and shareable experience, it's the best time now to really think about how people can actually then become more relatable with their data and achieve business problems. I think what worries me the most, again, with the buzz today really being AI, right? We're kind of
wait, AI is a buzzword right now? I haven't heard of it. What is this AI that you speak of?
It's magic. Yeah. And I think, the crazy like experiences that I got, I think, what I'm like, not just crazy, but like the most, like kept me level-headed and logical in an approach like this was building technology at Warner around how to take business processes and make them more efficient and leverage what you would have called AI, like business rules and things like that, to drive the next step in the process. And I think what I'm worried about most is when I see others thinking about this problem is, oh, we need to use AI to lift signatures off of paper documents.
Mm-hmm.
We need to use AI to read paper-based documents. And I think when you kind of, peel that back and you look and understand more of, the problems that are coming today, why fraud is exceeding, and it's because trucking companies, right, and maybe bad actors or broker bad actors, right, are getting into the process faster than like you can vet them. And when you have paper, people are using then that paper to edit them, and PDF editors, right, and doing things downstream that where if you only apply AI downstream like that, then to lift signatures, to lift, off of paper-based processes, that it's not actually solving this problem. And so with AI being the buzzword of the day, I think that's what I think. Yeah, it's kind of an interesting way I think people are viewing how to solve problems with technology versus thinking about it, immersing yourself into the business and really understanding how things work from a process perspective just before throwing AI at it.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's very accurate, right? Everything that you're saying right now. And I feel like there's, with a lot of stuff for me, Josh, I feel like there's and this is, I mean, honestly, man, this is like the premise of my show it's a fundamentals based show, right? Like we are talking about the blocking and the tackling, the stuff that's never necessarily going to go away. But like, if you overstep a lot of this, and I feel like yes, I'm a massive fan of technology, and I don't want to get what I'm about to say misconstrued out there, but I feel like there's too much technology being pushed too fast that ultimately, when it boils down to it, people are just automating shitty processes at that point. And then your automation, you think it's good, but it just sucks because you never took a couple of minutes to actually find out, A, what are your customers actually requesting? B, what are your carriers requesting? I'm speaking from a broker standpoint.
Yeah.
What do they need? And then are you investing in tools that are actually making their lives easier or making their lives harder? And I feel like we're kind of at a crossroads out there, right? Because I see a lot of tech that's out there in the industry right now. A lot of it. I'm not here to say anything's right, wrong, or indifferent, but some of it that I see, I'm like, who's asking for this? Because like, again, I actually move freight, just little putting that out there. I don't see a lot of a need being asked from transportation providers about, hey, do you guys have this capability and this capability and this capability? Don't get me wrong. There is a certain level that is applicable to, but I feel like people are kind of pigeonholing themselves because they think like, oh, if I buy this piece of tech, all of my problems are going to go away. And it's just not the case, right? But like one thing that I love about what you guys are doing the most is like this right here is something that touches every shipper out there. Every piece of product that is being moved across anything is on a bill of lading, right? At least legally. Like I'll just throw that legally being processed is on a bill of lading. And, and it's also like, from an operational efficiency standpoint as well. I look at, some of the shipments that we move. There could be 40 shipments a day being moved out of one facility, all the same commodity, everything is the same, and it's just one PO number different across there, right? It's a project-based shipment, and then somebody comes in and picks up a load that, ends in 4-5, and then they were tendered 4-4, and then it just causes a massive headache and everything. And it's like now everything, from the digital aspect of it is just one quick keystroke at the shipper. They don't have to go and print off, a rolled scroll to send out on a pigeon to get to the driver. We can go and digitize this, send it out to the right parties, or just make some quick keying errors or quick keying changes, excuse me.
Yeah. No, and I think so. It's like what's crazy. I think the more we ask, right? I think like the more companies were getting involved as far as like either being like a collaborator, right? Like walking through some of the technology that we're going and the roadmap to, the partnership, the technology ecosystem partnerships we're forming. It's really, I think bringing in the clarity of like this paper BOL, and like what you're saying is like for inbound, because you got to look at it like kind of both ways. You've got inbound of like companies that are receiving product, right? And they're receiving that document, which becomes a proof of delivery via paper. And, it's impacting their ability to do like their downstream process of intake and thinking about inventory reconciliation. And part of where, companies are starting to look at us from the regard of, could you help with like our claims process? Mm-hmm. Because they're saying like, because this paper data is something I have to go back and look at or has handwritten notes on it, and then I can't maybe, consume that. They're missing out on how they work with like their suppliers and, mm-hmm. and making sure they, take care of issues as they occur timely. And so I think like the more we're uncovering like use cases like that, just as much as, just the traditional, I think where people think of is, the dock worker having to sign it on an outbound load and a driver coming, we've kind of said, well, yes, that's what we're doing. We're physically taking that document and making it digital, but what else can we do to drive and make that process more efficient? Mm-hmm. And quickly we're learning. It's like, hey, what if I could, transportation companies are saying, could I give you identity around a driver?
Yeah.
Could I give you the concept of this is the truck and trailer? And at the same time, shippers are saying, hey, what if I could give you the yard spot or the dock door and could automate then kind of that check-in process, right? With this data now being more freed up, but also with a marketplace. Mm-hmm. Our platform's providing is, yes, we'll exchange the bill of lading. Yes, we'll make sure all parties have it and capture the signatures and capture, real-time proof of delivery, information. But at the same time, can they also bring other data to exchange here and continue to make, the pickup process more seamless? And I think, yeah.
No, I was gonna say, how is this kind of what? Because obviously, people have heard the term blockchain thrown out there, but it's kind of like since faded away with, like you said, that buzzword that nobody like. I'm just hearing about called AI, but I feel like isn't that what blockchain was essentially designed to do? Josh, was this to keep a lot of that organized out there, and then you build up that profile? Because again, you brought up the claims process, right? Like there's again, when like this is the stuff that fires me up the most. Operational, like I am so into like operational efficiencies. How do we build out profiles for each individual customer about how they operate? Because again, in my opinion, as a broker, I need to make my customer's life easy and I need to make my carrier's life easy. And that's what the literal definition of a broker is. And it's like every single customer processes claims differently. Every single customer processes billing differently. How do we have this to make it as easy as possible across the board? And I feel like that's kind of like one of the reasons why people might want to stop working with you is if you can't bill them properly, or if you can't tell that story about like, hey, this is what happened with this, damaged product. Here's all the photos. Here's the bill of here's the person who told us that. All of it, keep all of that organized. That's where things get dicey.
Yep. No, and I think so. It's like instead of saying words like blockchain, I like to use the words like a standard, right? Standardization. Mm-hmm. And that kind of concept of, I think for the last like 60 years, a lot of companies have leveraged EDI to exchange data, and everybody has their own little thought of EDI setup. Each shipper's like, hey, you have to do it this way if you want to do business with me, Mr. Trucking Company or Transportation Company. And so part of that is, yes, it could be blockchain, right? But it's really more of standardizing the way the data needs to be shared and exchanged to create that capability to say, here's a foundation. If you trade data this way, look how much faster, things can go downstream, upstream, and us be more relational, if that makes sense. And so whether ultimately it is blockchain or not, the concept of standardization. And so I know there's groups that have come out, standardization groups like the National Motor Freight Traffic Association, pushing, standardized EBOL. There's, different industries like the rail and shipping side, more of the Digital Shipping Standards Association, Container Shipping Standards Association. And each are trying to create that standard.
Mm-hmm.
And so part of this is we don't want to reinvent this. We think these standards groups are like, for the first time, putting it where it needs to be in this thought of JSON and API type of driven, but there still needs to be a guide and a gateway to kind of bring everybody together. And so that's where the Pulse platform starts to nestle itself in, is to say, hey, we're going to leverage these key standards. And if you're already adopted a standard, our platform already helps maintain that, manage that, and you can exchange your data that way. We just want to make sure that your parties can be enabled on the platform, can adopt, can move their data, and can exchange it this way. And so that's where we think our niche is enablement and helping drive adoption with standards.
Yeah, I think, like, how do we do that though? Like, right, like, how do we as an industry, because again, we're in a free market, as you know, Josh. When you start a business, it's only a matter of time before there are multiple competitors who are out there. So how do you do that? And especially in an industry that is as fragmented as the transportation industry, right? We got a ton of owner operators out there, a ton of independent brokers, all of that stuff. And then again, a ton of independent manufacturers and supplier, all of that stuff out there. So how do you get a universal adoption of, like, this is the standard, this is how it's done moving forward?
Yeah, no, I think a lot of it stems from the way you incentivize and value, right? Value creation through a platform. I think as you consider the groups that you mentioned, like owner operators, right? And again, today's pragmatic world of, again, if there's more people able to get in and then create friction because of fraud, right? And those types of things, I think it will become the parties that embrace technology and also embrace the willingness to exchange data in a compliant fashion. Will get more opportunities. And so I don't look at it as it's only an enterprise value proposition, but it becomes those that see the value and also, want to be a collaborative, participant to see this efficiency take flight, are going to be the ones that ultimately stay around, get the value, aren't challenged in a way where, hey, sorry, if you can't use, data and technology, then we can't do business. I think I really look at the people that are going to maybe want to push the technology the most, right? And I think a lot of that is, the shipping community, who are wanting to see a little more transparency than maybe what they're getting. And I know, like, we haven't even mentioned like the ASN, the Advanced Shipping Notice.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's what we're really uncovering with some of this is people, have this expectation, yes, they're getting a little bit of communication about who the driver might be, right, when it might arrive, but getting the ultimate understanding of what got loaded in the trailer, I think, is what's driving some of this. And, I think the surprises that are occurring still today of, hey, this is what I ordered, and all of a sudden this is what I got, because, again, the paper's not digital. There's too many surprises, too many things. And again, you can't throw enough of those AI type things down. And so I look at it as that it's it's not just a shipper forced product, but I do think like the shipping community at large is saying this paper document is creating an issue, but also it's the lack of connectivity. It's the lack still of visibility to what gets put in the freight when it leaves the supplier.
Yeah, man, it's interesting, right? Like I feel like we're at a really good crossroads right now with a lot of stuff, right? And I feel like, it's just like all the individuals out there who are like, oh, the digital broker's never going to become a thing. I, as a broker, think that that's a complete bold-faced lie. I think it's only a matter of time before somebody develops the right technology that it does work at scale. And I feel like, yeah, you know what? If you look out over the next 20 to 30 years, you're extremely naive, or I would even go as far as say extremely ignorant to think that like it's just going to look the same. It's only a matter of time, right? Like there's a ton of very smart people out there who are developing stuff at all times. And, I feel like it's going to come to a point here. And I'm not going to sit here and say like, oh, brokers are going to be replaced. No, but bad and mediocre brokers are going to be replaced. Yes. Just like there's going to be bad and mediocre people that are going to be replaced across every industry here as technology continues to advance. And you have to be open to a lot of that stuff. And, again, if you're a good hard worker out there, I don't think you have anything to worry about, honestly. Like if you're a hardworking individual, you got nothing to worry about long term. But I feel like, are things going to look differently? Absolutely, they are.
Yeah, and I think, it's just to the point of when you take a stance and look at just how fast people are adopting, and to your point of new innovation is occurring. I think that's where brokers and owner operators have the best chance, right? Is adopting those new technologies, right? Yeah. Embracing the change. I think I go back to, and again, as I started this, my biggest pain point was when we were doing document scanning, right? Was, well, my 65-year-old driver's not going to download your app and take pictures of this document. Yeah. And I look at it this way, and these are small trucking companies that we were working with first. And I would just say, I'm not here to get in the way of, you causing friction with your driver. But I think as a business owner, right, and as someone that says, hey, having my bill of lading to me and being able to invoice a customer, 2, 5, 7 days faster, that's a dramatic change in cash flow for your company. Yeah. And I think that's where part of this goes, right? Is I can't sit here and say, well, the truck's never going to get fully autonomous. I don't know, it might. Right? Like who knows, right? Or it might be, I
think, I'm right there with you, right? Like to sit here and say throughout my life that something will never happen. I don't know about that, man. There's a lot of shit that's happened here over these last couple of years. And, again, I think that there are going to definitely be some parts that are going to look very, very different as years continue to come down. But, that's what's exciting about it, right? And that's what's exciting about a free market and the society that we live in is, man, there's a lot of opportunity that's out there if you want it. But Josh, that's going to be it for today, man. Dude, I'm going to have you back on. You're like, love to. I love talking about this stuff because, at the end of the day, there's so much that's out there. It's not always about how do I sell and it's a big component of it, but there's a lot of stuff that you got to be on the forefront of and see kind of what's coming down the pipeline. But dude, how does anybody reach out to you to find out more about what you got going on?
Yeah. Reach out to driverdoc.io or website or on LinkedIn. Our company's webpage or company page there. And definitely, I want this, I want people to think of, our approach to the fully digital bill of lading is it's very collaborative, and something that if you've got questions and want to talk more and how you can be involved, pilot, test, start to try out some of the technology, we want to hear from you.
I love it, man. Sounds good. And if you can't find Josh for whatever reason, hit me up. I will gladly put you guys in contact with him. Awesome. But that is going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. As always, if you got value in what you heard, subscribe to the show. If you're feeling really ambitious after this one, which you should be, rank the show as well on iTunes and Spotify, because that's how your network's going to see value. And if you saw value, chances are your network's going to see value as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And we'll be talking to you soon. No cool outro, Josh.